Web3.TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Web3 TV. I'm Lisa Amnegard, and today we're at the Dubai AI Festival. And joining me right now is Yat Siu, CEO and founder of Animoca Brands. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And how's the event been so far for you?
It's great. I mean, it's buzzing, as you can sort of hear and see, and a lot of activity. I guess it's also demonstrative of how Dubai is really focused on the growth areas, including AI and Web3.
Yeah, definitely. And you're one of the leading brands when it comes to Web3. So tell me a little bit what's happening at Animoca Brands right now.
I mean, Animoca Brands has had a pretty strong last year in terms of quarterly results. I think we've announced, basically, I think 314 million in revenue, close to $100 million in EBITDA, and sitting on almost $4 billion of assets. So close to a year fairly strongly. People might not know us mostly about what we do in the metaverse and in gaming. But we've actually expanded a fair bit. We have over 540 portfolio companies today, driven in large part by our investments in things like AI, for instance, which is why we're here, of course. Also L1, L2s, and in the education space. Very focused on digital identity as well with Mochaverse, and excited to where it's all going.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we're here at Dubai AI Festival, and AI is definitely everywhere. So tell me a little bit how AI fits into what you guys are doing, and what can you say has impacted the business when it comes to AI?
First of all, AI is so important to everything. It's not just about one or two business segments. It's fundamental to everything we're driving. So for instance, we're one of the most prolific investors in Web3. So we have this one product called Hey Annie that actually is a way that we analyze our investment portfolios, and AI is actually vetting the potential of that portfolio before it even goes to the investment team. And that's basically based on all of our own investment sort of reviews and our memos, to get that kind of insight. And that's something we might offer to others in the future, but for the time being, we're using that kind of data internally. We're also using AI in education, for instance, with TinyTap and Open Campus, which is the EDU token, where you have basically like an online teacher tutor. They basically allow you to sort of take content. A teacher can make content very easily with AI, but then also the tutor, in this case, this tutor is called Eddie, is able to teach you a personalized curriculum based on information that it sort of gets from teachers or others. But personalized to the student, and that's quite powerful. And you can do it now at a much, much lower cost, and also much more accessible, right? Just think about, the millions of students out there that don't have access to actual tutoring. They can now do that. And of course, in gaming, I mean, when you look at, for instance, gaming, I often have to remind people that actually gaming is still the place where most people do AI. It's not OpenAI. OpenAI is, has incredible growth, but there's 3.4 billion people who play games. And they always interact with an AI, even if it's dumb. Like when you go to a gaming NPC and you're buying something in a shop, or you're interacting with what to do in the game, you're talking to an AI. It's just a very dumb AI. And as that AI starts to evolve, we're going to constantly be engaging with them. And that's actually what the potential is, because in Web3, gaming economies, the current gaming economies weren't sustainable for AI because the cost is too high. But through tokenizations through Web3, you now have a business model where you can transact with the AI in those games, meaning that that's a way in which you could scale. And we can see how that evolved into things like relationships, perhaps even commerce, and so forth.
And so basically you're saying that AI can make games better.
Well, AI will make games better. Also, not only from the experience from an end user, which is what I just described, but also in the developing of games. So one thing that's really popular is called vibe coding, right? And vibe coding is basically you're just vibing along with the AI to create basically games. And we're seeing now with companies like Rosebud in our portfolio that they're actually building ways in which you can really sort of create some pretty cool games without knowing how to program. Now that kind of, you seem a little too young to know this, but at the time, there was a time where to be a photographer, you had to be a professional.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You had like the lens and the camera and stuff, and there's a whole art form related to just skills knowing how to use that. And then on came the smartphone and Instagram. And now everyone's a pro photographer in a way. And I see this happening with game development as well, where through vibe coding, everyone can be a game developer. There's obviously distinctions. There's going to be ones that are really, really good and the ones that are going to be okay. But everyone has the ability to make it, not only just a select few.
So is that kind of opening up more creativity for the gaming industry?
And that's what technology does, right? I mean, for instance, if you go back even to the oldest forms of early tools like the calculator, today we take it for granted.
Yeah.
But what the calculator did, it opened up basically our ability to be creative with math as opposed to just know to do the math.
Yeah, exactly. And then when it comes to AI, it is actually helping many, many businesses be more innovative. So when it comes to Web3, what are you most excited about and how AI is changing the landscape?
I mean, I think AI is something that democratizes basically access to information. For instance, we're really excited about financial literacy and how it can really help people around that. One of the biggest problems we see in the world today is the world between those that know money and the world, part of the world that doesn't know money. And, we're in Web3, so most of the people in Web3 kind of understand money and they do generally okay. But this is the problem we have politically in the world today.
Yeah.
The labor economy is like, I have no idea what money is. I'm kind of scared. I'm sort of against it. Those communities are also talking about socialism.
Yeah.
Suddenly Karl Marx is in vogue. Some people are talking about communism coming on the rise. Like, all of this stuff is nonsense. However, that's because you don't understand money. And so AI is a way in which it can teach you the kind of things that are relevant to you, but in a way that's digestible to you. My mom is an artist. She's a creator. And she would never be interested in, financial instruments. She doesn't care about it. But, if you speak it to her from a creative, from a musician perspective, from her lens, then she might understand it better, right? And again, this is where Web3 is important, because now we can actually translate assets that were not assets before. For instance, how many people in the Philippines learned about financial systems because of games like Axie Infinity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it was speculative and there was volatility, but they learned about something with money that they didn't have access before because they didn't even have a bank account, right?
Exactly.
So you're basically taking areas of personal passion, infusing financial systems into them, causing you to learn about money, and improving your financial literacy. So I'm particularly excited about where that development goes, and I think AI will be a big sort of supercharger on that, alongside everything else we just discussed earlier.
And also, Dubai is trying to position itself as a global leader when it comes to
Yes.
AI. So tell me a little bit more about how Dubai is benefiting your company.
Well, I had shared this earlier in a panel, right? One of the powerful things about Dubai is that Dubai has great regulatory frameworks and is very open to it. It also has the kind of stability and certainty in lawmaking that many of the other countries in the world have currently lost, right, because of political cycles. It's very hard to build a business when the political winds could shift and suddenly you work on something and 2 years later it's something else and 2 years later it's something else, right? It's really hard to do that. So that's kind of a beneficial thing. The second thing is that, AI and the business of AI is about entrepreneurship. And what you need with entrepreneurship is you need capitalism, right? You need basically an embrace and a love of capitalism. And you see the problem with countries around the world, particularly in Europe, for instance, where you're having more anti-capitalist sentiment, which means you're anti-entrepreneurial in a way, and you're anti-business. Then you can't evolve and you can't thrive.
It stymies innovation.
Exactly, it stifles innovation. And look at the AI industry in Europe. I'm sorry to say, it's just not very good, even though they have raw talent and they have universities and they have all that type of stuff and great intellectualism and great history. But all these things aren't enough unless you embrace capitalism and entrepreneurship and have a respect for that, right? And Dubai has that, right?
Yeah. And a very friendly regulatory framework for AI.
And a much more comfortable relationship with what capitalism is and with entrepreneurship and the relationship with money and financial systems. And we need to remember what is the thing that made Silicon Valley powerful, right? Sure, you had entrepreneurs and they built technology, but it became the center of investing. It was VC capital, right?
Yeah.
People moved there because of the access to that capital, because they understood risk, right? And so this risk-taking mindset that you have in Dubai, not just the government per se, but actually just the people who are investing, right? When you go to Dubai, you're not just looking at money from the government. It's actually looking money from investors in the local ecosystem. That was one of the big secret sauces of Silicon Valley. That's what Dubai has, and that's what other countries need to learn.
Yeah, and it's evolving very fast.
Exactly.
But it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and
Likewise.
Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
We'll be bringing you more interviews. My name is Lisa Amnegard, and you're watching Web3 TV.
Web3